whether man-made or not, one of the worst disasters in human history. And we are genuinely less prepared for the next one than the last one.
It's not one of the worst disasters in human history. I could name 100 worse ones.
Fair enough,
Okay.
but it was bad. I didn't enjoy it.
Let's not be purple.
It was a bad.
Anthony Fauci. Now, remember that name. There's a reason he was given a pardon back to 2014. There is something very wrong going on here.
You know,
Yeah, I also don't think he did it for nefarious reasons. There's an argument to...
Bill Maher is taking aim at woke culture again, this time targeting New York Times columnist Ezra Klein. Klein showed up ready to debate, but Maher quickly tore into his arguments with facts and sharp logic. By the end, Klein looked outmatched, as if he'd just lost a fight with common sense. What really happened during this clash? And how did the internet react? Before we dive in, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. Let's get into it.
20. There's a new book out called COVID's Wake. I was reading it this last couple of weeks, and the core paper that killed off any idea that this was a lab leak in China, the Proximal Origin paper, which was produced with Fauci and Collins, the NIH and NIAID, helping it along, was a lie, a conscious lie. That the people who looked at it, we now have their emails, are saying in the very first days of looking at the virus, this looks very man-made to us. This is so friggin' obvious this is man-made.
Well,
So friggin' obvious, one of them said. And then they wrote the report saying there is no evidence that this was made in a lab. The question is why? Why would they lie to us about it?
The episode kicked off with a bold question. Where did COVID-19 originate? Andrew Sullivan didn't hold back. He slammed officials for ignoring the lab leak theory because it didn't fit their agenda. Instead, they backed the proximal origin story, blaming animals and markets. Sullivan was visibly upset, accusing them of misleading the public and hiding facts. Now, as the truth surfaces, the old narrative is falling apart.
Democrats are so much as fault as scientists who went along with this, knowing better. It's their integrity I'm concerned about, to actually lie and distort what they could see with their own eyes because they were afraid of politics. The other question is this. This lab was a gain of function lab. That means they were creating viruses,
Right.
dangerous viruses, to figure out how to protect you from them. This gain of function was research was always dangerous. Everyone knew it was dangerous. Long time ago, you go back to 2015, you will find a big meeting in London where they say there's one lab in the world most likely to have a problem with this, Wuhan. Do you know who was the biggest supporter of gain of function research for the last 30 years? Anthony Fauci. Anthony Fauci. Now, remember that name. There's a reason he was given a pardon back to 2014. There is something very wrong going on.
Then the topic shifted to Dr. Fauci. Reports suggest he knew about Wuhan lab research back in 2015, but still denied a lab link. Though hailed as a trusted expert, Fauci's early knowledge and a backdated legal cover from 2014 raised serious questions. Critics were dismissed for years, but now that more details are emerging, the narrative is shifting fast. Let's hear Maher's take.
I also don't think he did it for nefarious reasons. There's an argument to be made. There's an actual intellectual debate to be had. Should gain of function research be done? We want to get ahead of viruses. The other answer is, the other response would be, it's too dangerous, because if it gets out, it's going to be bad, and that's what happened. But I don't think he's an evil guy,
No, I think
like some
that-
people do, who was trying to get rich off this.
No.
Okay, he just made the wrong call.
No, he knew from the get-go that the Wuhan lab had security levels that were the average of a dentist's office. They should have been at the highest level imaginable. He knew that. Not only that,
he made the wrong call.
The NIH and NIAID had helped.
Here's where I strongly part ways with Bill Maher. This wasn't just a bad call by Dr. Fauci. It was complete failure at the highest level. We're not talking about a minor mistake. This was negligence on a massive global scale. Are we really supposed to buy the idea that someone simply forgot to secure a high-risk lab doing gain-of-function research? That's hard to believe. We're talking about a facility handling engineered viruses with serious potential risks, and the so-called expert in charge didn't make safety a top priority. That's unacceptable. Whether or not Fauci had any personal interests involved is a separate issue, but the fact remains. He was everywhere during the pandemic. The media loved him. He was treated like a hero. But once the smoke cleared, all that remained was a trail of falsehoods. There's no debating this. Fauci wasn't just wrong. He was careless, misleading, and never held accountable. And now, the same people who once praised him are quietly trying to rewrite the story.
So you don't want to go down in history as the person who helped develop the virus that killed millions of people. You want to go down as the one who saved millions of people. That was at stake, a reputational matter.
Exactly. With all the information now available, Fauci's legacy won't be one of leadership. It'll be a warning. He didn't risk lives through accident. He did so through arrogance, poor judgment, and a disregard for transparency. For years, he was presented as the scientific voice of reason. But behind closed doors, he ignored red flags, rejected fair concerns, and helped mask the full story. When evidence started emerging, his response was to dodge and deny. Let's not forget, he was the same official who promoted strict rules and mandates, even when the data contradicted them. He targeted anyone who asked questions, labeling them as conspiracy theorists. Now, with accountability closing in, his defenders are rewriting history. But the facts are out. Fauci won't be remembered as a savior, but as a figure whose decisions caused real damage.
To me, is we are now years after, whether man-made or not, one of the worst disasters in human history. And we are genuinely less prepared for the next one than the last one.
It's not one of the worst disasters in human history. I could name 100 worse ones.
Fair enough,
Okay.
but it was bad. I didn't enjoy it.
I mean, let's not be purple.
It was a
about
bad pandemic.